I've been repeating this all day today, and I was upset, choked, and embarrassed, kind of ashamed, to be honest, because the reason why, for the work that I do and the work that Chelsea do to eradicate racism at the club. So to see that, it was like I was awoken and it was 12 at the night, and to see a message which I didn't understand until I saw the video. Yeah, couldn't believe it. Where was it coming from?
Because when you started out playing for Chelsea, we're talking a few decades ago now, aren't we? Things were very different, or at least we hope they were different. It was a pretty unpleasant experience by the sound. It
was. I didn't expect. I was a young lad seeking his dreams of being a professional footballer, making his debut, and it was against Crystal Palace. And not knowing anything, just want to get on the pitch. And here's this opportunity now for the second half to be into the fray of it. And before so, doing my warm-up, start to hear this racist abuse being shouted at me, and not knowing it was coming, thinking it was the Crystal Palace supporters. It was coming from my own supporters. A minority of those supporters was giving me that abuse.
Garth, we very much hope that things have changed since those days, and that in actual fact things have improved with the Kick It Out campaign and things like that. Is this an isolated incident, or are we seeing a rise of the ugly face of abuse on the field again?
Well, we all hope it's an isolated incident, but I think what is important to recognise is we can't in football afford to be complacent. That's the first thing. Racism has its ugly face, it has its twists, and it has its turns, and you have got to keep pace with it. And that's why it's very important that we're not complacent and we take it very seriously. I think what's been very important in the developments over the last 24 hours is the response from Chelsea Football Club. And what Chelsea Football Club are doing is they're almost self-policing. What took place in that subway in Paris was pretty much on the streets. It was a civil situation. It wasn't in football, it wasn't at Stamford Bridge. UEFA, and it was a European game, have made absolutely clear this is outside of our remit. But Chelsea, all credit to them, have said, if these are Chelsea fans, we will take appropriate action. And I think that's commendable, because what Kick It Out has been trying to do for a number of years is to get clubs to self-police. And we are at a groundbreaking stage now where Chelsea have taken it upon themselves to go beyond their remit to help the French authorities, to help the Metropolitan Police, and say, look, if you can prove that these are Chelsea fans, and if they have season tickets or are members, we will deal with them. That's a great message for football.
Which is very encouraging indeed. But Paul, do you think Chelsea are going far enough? I mean, a statement is easy to put out in many ways. But should we see, for example, Roman Abramovich coming out and actually saying something, or in fact some of the senior players making a statement as well, and showing that they're actually more serious about it?
Well, it's early days yet, and you might see them coming out. Right now, as Garth said, Chelsea are getting on top of it and reacting to the situation right away. And that's what I like about it. It needed to be. They're not dragging their heels about this. It's kind of serious. As I said, my question is, are they real Chelsea supporters? That's what we got to understand first. And then the next question, the original fans, the real fans that were there on that tube, they do know them. And if they do, spot them out, and we'll get them out.
We've heard the reaction of some of the other people who were on that tube saying, no, 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 this wasn't a racist attack. I saw you both actually almost blinking in amazement at that.
Well, I'd be interested to know what they would perceive it to be. If it's not a racist attack, I'd like to know what is. The only thing that was absent there that on that particular occasion was the violence, and I think that it wouldn't have taken much to spark violence. I think any reasonable person who'd have seen that video footage would have been appalled by it. But I think what is important to recognise now is that we are in a situation where, in football and in society, there are people clearly saying things in private they're not prepared to say in public. And it's quite clear to me that if those racist thugs in that subway in Paris have known they'd been on camera, they'd have modified their behaviour. But this is something that's symptomatic in football. There seems to be this behaviour where you know, quietly things are said that shouldn't be said. And I think this is the next stage of our development at Kick It Out, with the football authorities and with clubs in particular, to deal with situations. We've got to say in the dressing room and in the boardrooms, look, you know, these are working environments. We cannot allow people to say things either in private or publicly, certainly not publicly, but in private, that they think they can get away with. We've got to actually announce it and present it as it is, and for what it is. But this was a situation that was outside, beyond football scope. So I commend Chelsea for getting involved.
At the same time, though, when we look at the number of banning orders that Chelsea's got against fans, it's actually very low compared to a lot of other clubs. I mean, does this suggest perhaps there's a bit of inertia going on?
Well, I think that's a bit unfair, actually.
No, that is. I'm sorry.
When you consider, I'm sorry, but when you consider the amount of work that Chelsea have done, and I'm not a spokesman for Chelsea. I find myself, I think it's quite interesting that I find myself sort of defending the club almost. But I have to acknowledge that Chelsea have worked very, very hard and been almost immediate. I got information of this particular incident at 7:30 this morning. By 8:15, Chelsea had responded.
There you go.
Very fast indeed. And do you think, I mean, you know, you were the first ever black player, but now we see several black players for Chelsea, and in fact, across the game as a whole, they're much more common. But do you think this puts off young talent or holds them back in any way?
It won't put off young talents, regardless. As you said, from Chelsea have stepped up their game in dealing with the matter right away. A young lad coming into football, he will not be discarded of what he's seen there. Chelsea is a very big club, as many as other Arsenal or Man United, and they're dealing with the situation of racism. Don't get me wrong, it creeps, but when it creeps, we get on top of it, and that's what we're doing here.
Absolutely. When there's an eruption, we deal with it.
Very heartening to hear that. Good to have both of you here. Thank you.